Joseph Tuscano, UC Davis Comprehensive Cancer Center, a professor of medicine. I pursued a career or academic career in biomedical research in oncology because it's an enormous unmet need. There are many patients that die because of cancer. So there's a big need to develop new and less toxic therapies. There's two projects that I'm working on. One of them is a project that's funded to understand and develop novel anti-cancer drugs from natural products. These natural products are derived from the environment, have very little toxicity, are very inexpensive to produce, and seem to have activity in multiple different types of cancer. And so the funding will allow us to identify these products so that they can be developed into new, less toxic, less inexpensive drugs for many different types of cancers. The other project is a clinical research project where I'm the principal investigator on several clinical trials that are funded by the National Cancer Institute that help to develop new treatments for malignant lymphoma that are relatively less toxic, and these are in patients really that have a high risk of succumbing to their disease, and so these new treatments hopefully will lead to a higher rate of cures. I think there's always enormous public impact in both what we consider to be translational research, and that's developing new drugs. In that we need new products. We need products that are much less expensive and less toxic. And so I think that we are on the forefront of developing some of those new therapies, hopefully, again, that'll be less toxic and very inexpensive. So halting that research has a potential enormous impact on patients that have cancer and many different types of malignancies. In terms of the clinical research, also, many patients have a high risk of relapse, and so some of these trials will reduce that risk, increase the remission rate, and potentially cure rate. And so that really reduces the chances of relapse. And that is obviously better for patients. It saves enormous amounts of money and subsequent medical bills potentially. So I think it's a worthwhile investment. So if federal funding is reduced, that will reduce our ability to develop new drugs for these devastating diseases. Potentially the costs will continue to rise, and more people will potentially succumb to cancer without the development of new drugs. And again, that goes in both directions in terms of translational science, and what that means is the development of new drugs, as well as testing drugs in patients. So if we don't test the drugs in patients, we can't make them available to everybody. And also, many patients that really don't have many treatment options will enroll on clinical trials to not only to help themselves in hopefully achieving remission and longer life, but also help everybody down the road, period. I think it's important to understand that participation in clinical trials helps everybody. Every agent that we have available for any disease is because patients participated in clinical trials. So clinical research is really important. It extends lives and it saves money down the line.